So I got this comment from one of my viewers and I want to use this opportunity to share some tips about how you can clear the Tower of Adversity much more faster than usual. Be sure to like and subscribe for more Wuthering Waves content from me in the future. The bosses in the Tower of Adversity are just your regular overworld bosses with a ton of HP, so you always need to do more damage within the shortest possible time to complete it within the 3-minute mark. Rotations that are recommended for your DPS characters to do more damage is always viable, but if you fought the same boss for about 50 times already like I have, your game knowledge increases significantly to the point that you can modify the recommended rotations a little bit to reduce the time that you waste trying to evade the boss's attacks. In today's video, we're going to be discussing 3 core principles or tips that you need to implement in your gameplay to help you clear the Tower of Adversity much more faster than usual. I will play a clip at the end of my commentary of how these tips can be useful against the Impermanence Heron boss in the Hazard Zone. My ping was also insanely high and my damage dealer was at level 80, so unless your ping is higher than mine and you're playing on a potato PC or a Nokia 3310, you have no excuse about not clearing the Tower of Adversity already. We'll be taking a look at 3 different core principles or tips, including boss patterns, good intro and outro windows, and lastly, concerto energy regeneration by dodging. Let's take a look at boss patterns. I won't be surprised if many players who like to play hologram bosses like I do have it much easier when they are up against bosses in the Tower of Adversity. The reason is quite simple. They have fought against these bosses multiple times with nearly impossible to dodge attack animations. Going up against these bosses in the tower becomes child's play for these players, and you tend to discover patterns in the boss's attacks that either help you easily avoid damage or attack while the boss is stuck in an animation. A good example is the Philian Berengal boss, who starts spinning around with a large log that magically appears out of nowhere. It took me some time in the early game to discover that the boss actually generates a wind current that you can ride with your glider and just fly up to ignore all the damage. In the current Tower of Adversity, you can actually do something similar when you are fighting against the Impermanence Heron boss in the Hazard Zone. The boss has this animation when it starts sucking everything in front of him, and if it pulls you in, it then performs a 3-hit combo and ends it with a body slam. Few players know that you can actually run around it and stick to its tail to continue your rotation or do damage while the boss is stuck in that vacuum cleaner animation. There are other bosses that have some animations which give you a free damage window, but I can't go over all of them for the sake of keeping this video short. The second tip we're going to take a look at is good intro and outro windows. I'm sure most of you know by now that it's a good practice to always use your intro skills to easily parry incoming attacks because of the suspended animation that enemies get stuck in, which makes it easier to parry their attacks. I will make a separate video on how you can become a parry god in the game, which will explain in detail why it's easier to parry with intros, so look forward to that. Using your intros to parry attacks is a viable way to reduce the enemy's vibration strength, but it doesn't have to be that way all the time. In the tower, your main goal is to deal damage within the shortest possible time, so instead of always looking for parry windows with your intros, you should use this as a method to evade incoming attacks completely. When your character triggers an intro skill, the character gains full invulnerability frames throughout the intro skill attack animation. Doing this properly can allow you to basically attack your way through the incoming damage which you would have spent a few seconds dodging, so keep that in mind. The last tip is concerto energy regeneration by dodging. This might sound contradictory to the main topic of discussion in this video, which is to evade damage without wasting time, but I assure you that that's not the case. Wuthering Waves concerto energy mechanics give you a bit of concerto energy upon executing a perfect dodge animation, and the best part about this is that it allows majority of characters in the game to start their normal attack sequence from a higher stage, which fills up your concerto energy even faster when coupled with the concerto energy that you gained by executing the perfect dodge animation. This allows you to basically perform a dodge counter and continue your basic attacks combo string without actually resetting it to the first stage. This mechanics is insanely good for 2 reasons. The first one is that it's an optimal solution for characters that have issues with concerto energy regeneration like Tao Chi, for example, since it allows her to regenerate some concerto energy after dodging and allows her to start her basic attack string from the 3rd stage, which gives her more concerto energy with subsequent attacks attacks from the third stage of the basic attack animation. The second one is that you can easily recharge your concerto energy in a short time, especially in your first rotation in the tower where everyone's concerto energy is 0. This works more effectively against bosses that have fast consecutive attacks like Scar, for example, which makes switching back and forth characters to allow them to start their basic attack sequence from the third stage much more difficult. A great example is Verena, who can recover 1 forte stack if she does her 5th basic attack, so you don't really need to switch to Sanwa and back to Verena to recover forte stacks, especially in the first rotation as I mentioned earlier, where everyone's concerto energy is basically 0. On top of that, you don't waste that much time because by dodging consecutive attacks from bosses like Scar and performing your dodge counters, you will recover more concerto energy, which will allow you to swap to another character much more faster. So there you have it. Those are the tips and tricks that can help you clear the abyss, the Tower of Adversity a little bit faster from now on if you implement them in your gameplay. Here is a Hazard Zone Tower of Adversity run with Jinshi, Taochi, and Yuanwu, which includes all the tips that I've mentioned earlier. This video took me a while to put together, so show some love and be sure to like and subscribe for more Wuthering Waves content from me in the future. Hope you guys enjoy.
So please subscribe, whatever.